All right. Well, here we are with another success interview, and we've got an outstanding THQ client with us, Mr. Dave Alley, who I want to really get across in today's interview the journey of Dave and what you've been able to achieve, and I guess also so when someone is watching this and hearing this, that they can see that there's always a possibility, there's always a solution for someone that may be in their business, not sure how to take the business beyond where it currently is. And there's some really key things that you can do in order to make that work for you. So I guess without any further ado, mate, first welcome and thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today to do this interview.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for that introduction, mate. Yeah, looking forward to the chat.
My pleasure. Well, people are in for quite a treat because we're gonna talk all things your journey. The transition from your job, which we'll get into, to the world records that you hold, and really let people have a real insight about who Dave Alley is, and again your journey in the fitness industry. So we're starting with that, mate. When did you actually decide that starting a business and a business in the fitness industry was something that you'd like to entertain or like to do?
Look, Jess, I think for me it started in about 2015, where I got back from my run around Australia, and my wife was in the fitness industry, and she could tell that it was a passion of mine, and really encouraged me and supported me to go for it. And I guess that's where the seed was planted for me to start in business.
Well, now you mentioned the run around Australia. We better nip this in the bud right now, because it's people going, "What do you mean you run around Australia? What was this run around Australia business? Like, what do you mean you run around Australia?"
Well, I guess the journey really started for me in 2011. So in 2011, I cycled around Australia and broke, as you do it, and broke the world record to do that, and was juggling that with full-time work. Came back from the bike ride and just was overwhelmed with the support that I got, and the fact that people had written to me and posted to me online about how it changed their life following the journey, and I just got so much from that from a personal level, and then the decision was made to run around Australia. So I took that on, and 4 years later in 2015 ran around Australia and broke the record to do that.
How do you wake up one day and go, fuck it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run around Australia or ride around Australia? I know we're talking about all things business, but this is important. People get to really understand what a lunatic you are. I mean, what a great bloke you are. But no, jokes aside, how did that come about? Like, you riding around Australia, where did that come from? Was it for charity or was it your own personal endeavour? How did that happen?
Yeah, it was a bit of both. What happened was I was at that point in my life where I just felt stale in my job. I felt stale, and I felt like I needed to challenge something big. And my best mate, who was the manager of the trip, he's a school principal, and he felt the same in his life, and he felt like he wanted to do something different. And we always said we'd achieve something big together before we turned 40, and it really grew legs from there. And I think sport and business the same, really, in that it all starts with the mindset. So for me, really, the bike ride for us was going to be a charity event. We were going to raise money that was linked to both our occupations, policing and education. And I'd ride about 100 kilometres a day, and my mate would tow along in the vehicle. And it really grew legs from there. And it went from a simple two mates taking on a challenge to raise money to charity to a world record-breaking journey, or two of them. Wow.
And how long did it actually take, the ride around Australia? How long did that take you? Because that broke the record, right, for that one?
Yeah, so that was 14,251 kilometres, 37 days, 20 hours, 45 minutes.
37 days? That's enough.
So it was an average of 377 kilometres a day.
Bloody hell, that's impressive. That's so good. And you're obviously were training and you were fit before that, but I mean, I'm assuming the training must have been bloody next level.
Yeah, it was. Look, it was another full-time job. The logistics was a full-time job for the manager. The training and preparation was a full-time job. So, and at the time too, the added complexity of I was doing full-time shift work as well too. So
as a policeman, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, 20 years plus in total in the police. So I was managing my shifts with, a huge sort of 30 plus an hour training schedule as well.
And then the run around Australia, how long was that after the ride?
So that was 4 years later. So the bike ride was a 3 to 4 year preparation, and same for the run. So it was really starting from scratch, because doing the bike ride, obviously my focus was solely on cycling and strength and conditioning training around that. And I was really starting from scratch from the run. And, it took that 3 years, 4 years to prepare the body to be able to take it on.
I would have needed like 4 years just to recover from it. So let alone then go again and run. But the part I find interesting about that, and it's just to hear that, like the 3 to 4 years training just to get to that. I mean, it must have really, it's like that, not even knowing that was going to happen, I guess, right? 3 or 4 years of just training to hopefully it all goes to plan and it all works and comes together for you to actually go and actually do the event and ride around Australia. I imagine that, a lot of stuff may have could have gone wrong, or maybe did.
Yeah, mate, it was huge. There was so much went into it. There's so many variables, so many what ifs and could haves, and especially over that time on the bike 37 days, on the run it was 174 days. So there's so many variables with the body breaking down, the weather, all things out of our control that could have happened. It was a huge preparation, and so much went into it.
What did you learn about yourself during that period? That like because you've got the ride around Australia, the record, the run, in the swim you did as well, right? And then the swim.
If you saw me swim, you'd feel embarrassed for me. I'm like the Titanic in the water. Yeah, mate, look, I think, to be honest, and the other thing I can throw in there too for the people watching and listening is that I had no background in either sport. So, I was the kid at school that would come last in the school cross country. I loved sport, was involved, always been involved in sport and health and fitness, but no background at all in cycling, no background at all in running. And it really started with mindset. To be honest, mate, that's where it all stemmed from. And, what we did is when it was suggested that the bike ride might become more than just the charity event, we did our research and came up with what the record was. And my manager came back and he said to me, I'll dangle a carrot and ask you and let you know there is a record and there's no Australians in the top 5.
Wow.
So I went, okay, all right. And the record was held by a Canadian, and then 4 Europeans made up the top 5.
Wow.
So I said, okay, you've got my attention. And he asked me, he said, look, what do you think? What do you think the record would be for such a thing? And I said, look, I don't think you could ride any more than 200 kilometres a day, over 14,000 kilometres. I don't think the human body could take any more than that. And he agreed, and he said, well, I found out what the record is. It was held by a Canadian. He did it in 41 days and 5 minutes, and he averaged 340 kilometres a day.
Wow.
And that's where the mindset kicked in, because we both just laughed. We laughed. The idea was dismissed. We went back to plan A. And then I started to think about it, and I really broke it down in my mind. And I contacted the record holder from Canada, a guy called Perry Stone, and I asked him how he went about it. And he said, look, Dave, I rode at about 25 kilometres an hour, and I did that for 15 hours a day.
Wow.
And I thought, I can ride at 25 kilometres an hour, but I certainly can't do it for 15 hours a day. And I just broke it down mentally, and I just did this over time. And I'd go out and I'd ride for an hour at 25 kilometres an hour. And I remember ringing my manager so excited that I'd done that, and we just built from there, and I gained that, I guess, sense of self-belief. And I formed a really good team around me, which was crucial to it. So I had a fantastic coach. I had musculoskeletal therapist. I had dietitians come on board. I built such a great, I guess, team and mentors around me. And that was really the framework for what we went out to achieve. And then I got laughed at every day. Medical professionals, people in cycling and running just laughed at me and said it can't be done. And especially with your background, it's just not possible. And look, I was never cocky. I was never, but I was confident in myself. And I just had that belief that, well, if we break this down, we can we can achieve it. And that's how it happened. And we did a trial event, a 5-day trial in 2011 on the bike, and we basically did a loop around Queensland. And people may remember that in 2011 was their worst ever floods in Queensland. Right. And 20, 30 people lost their lives, and that was the week I did my trial. And I came back from that trial in those conditions, and I was under world record pace. And all of a sudden there was this real belief, not only within myself, but amongst the team, that hang on a minute, we can do this, we can pull this off.
So many relevant points in there with anything to be successful in any area of life. And you mentioned a whole heap. And I'm assuming that out of that process, you learn a lot about yourself, but also what it takes to be successful. You mentioned mindset, and I guess it starts with that, right? You had a lot of people doubting you. You had a lot of people saying it can't be done. So-called experts, you'd say that for probably the most part, a lot of people would hear that, and that would be enough for them to go, oh, well, can't be done, or give up. What were some of the real key things that you learned about yourself during that process? Because the ride's the ride, right? But it's the 3 or 4 years, the build up. I'm assuming who you become during that process has been with you, now, and you carry it through with other endeavours such as business that you do. What were some of the main things that really, you learn about yourself during that process?
Yeah, mate, I think probably the biggest takeaway I got from it is the power of the mind over the body, and what you can actually achieve if you have that belief within yourself. Yeah. That was probably the main one, and what we're actually physically capable of if we put ourselves in that position. Yeah. I think there's so much, and there's fear of people's opinions, there's fear of failure really take over a lot of people's lives, and same in business. Yeah. So many people out there and trainers, they want to take their business to the next level, or they're teetering between, I'm in this safety net of, look, I want to get into the fitness industry, I want to take it on, that's my passion, but I'm just too afraid to take it on. Or in my current job, it was the same for me. I had a background of 20 years in policing, and I looked at it and had those thoughts of, I get 6 weeks a year annual leave, I get sick leave, I get my superannuation, I've got a family to feed, I've got a mortgage, all these things that I'm sure people can resonate with that have gone through their mind. And it took me a long time again to have that mindset of, you know what, I'm just in that place now where I'm ready, and I'm ready to do this. And I think that mindset comes from those events. Yeah. For me, it was, look, to this day, where do I consider myself in terms of an athlete? There are way better athletes out there. There's way better cyclists. There's way better runners than me. But I think my mindset is my strength. Yeah. And to me too, it was having that team of people around me. I just didn't want to let them down. A lot of them had made huge sacrifices for me. So I think belief was the biggest thing that I gained from that, and setting myself a target, having a goal, having the big goal, but then reverse engineering it and breaking it down of, okay, well, here's the big goal. And if I stopped at any point, I think, and thought, I'm about to cycle 14,000 kilometres, I don't think I would have ever left home, to be honest. Yeah,
such a good point.
Yeah, I broke it down literally into day by day. And then I broke it down to hour by hour. And when I was struggling, I broke it down. I'd look ahead and I'd see a street sign and I'd say, just get to that street sign, get there and reassess. And I think that's relevant with business as well too, mate. There's so many ups and downs and challenges along the way. And a lot of people fall off along the way because they think it all becomes too hard. And if we just break it down, we have our foundations in place, you can do it.
I love that. And I love it, like the breaking the down and the right team, and you surround yourself with the right people and coaches, and, all that stuff is so transferable over to business. And I see it all the time since 2008 running the THQs that, people set the big goal, but then they start talking themselves out of it. Like you said, there's that, what about this and what about that, and what if that doesn't work? And you can see why people just don't even make a start. But that's the important part, but you're able to break it down. You're right. Because if you're only just thinking about the bigger picture, you probably wouldn't have left. But it's like, well, let's prepare for this over 3 years' time, and let's break it down if I can do this and can do that. And really that's the way to inch yourself forward, right? Where a lot of people don't even make a start because they talk themselves out of it or they get defeated beforehand. So
exactly right. Yeah. And I think there's that rocking chair, the test they say, which I really believe in. And I'm someone that I don't want to look back in the nursing home when I'm dribbling on myself and look back over my life and have those regrets that I didn't try. I'd rather have had a go and failed than look back and think of the should haves and could haves and what if I'd done this. And I think that's really the basic building blocks for any success.
And I'm a big fan. I talk about this often with people, that exactly when you look back, that's all you got to have. You know, regardless of the money you made, that whatever it is, that all that stuff's great, but you will look back and that's what you're left with. You're left with, did I give it a real go or did I just cruise through life doing the bare minimum? You know, because every time I got a bit hard or tough, I just bailed. Because the reality is, regardless if you made it half a way around Australia, 1/3, you know, because anything could have happened, that who you become just leading up to that event was the real gold, right? That was the stuff that really made you who you are now too, like gave you all those attributes. Because
absolutely,
you got the world record, great, but man, like just most people wouldn't even do the 3 or 4 years just to lead up to it going, you know, so many things could have just got in the way, but you didn't allow them to, and you kept sticking to your gun and, you know, just kept moving forward until, you know, you got the result, which is great.
Yeah, and I think that's a big point, mate, as well too, is that, look, people say now, oh, you must be stoked, you know, you've still got both records, you know, we're 10, 11 years on. And I say, yeah, the records are great, but it's really not what matters to me. What I'm most proud of from myself, from a personal level, is that I finished both events and I had nothing left in the tank.
Yeah.
I was done, and I look back, and that's the thing I'm most proud of, is that I left it all out there on the road and I finished. And I look back on both events and there's nothing I would have changed, even though there were so many hurdles along the way. I wouldn't change a thing. I gave it 100%, and that's the win for me. You know, people will come along and they'll beat both records, and I hope I'm the first one there to congratulate them because I'll know what they've been through.
Exactly. And it'd be like less than probably 0.000% of people who would ever experience something like that. So, mate, amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing, mate. And again, it's like, I love it. It's who you become in the process of any pursuit or goal that will be with you forever. So, yeah, mate, that's absolutely amazing. So, that knowing now people know that bit about you in the background, and, you know, then you wanted to start the business in 2015, I believe you said it was?
Yeah.
Is that when you officially started? You would have been policing still, but you were running your business part-time, were you?
Yeah. People will find this funny, and I look back now and I laugh, but how I started was I got back from the run and I had some time. I had about a month off work recovering, and had discussions with my wife, and she said, look, just start a run club. So for me, right. So I started with a run club up in Sandgate on the north side of Brisbane.
Oh, yeah.
And I was charging $5 a person, and I'd go home sometimes and I made $10. We went for a run. I can't believe people would do this. You know, this is awesome. And that was where it began for me. You know, and I guess too for me it was tough because I'd been in a government job for 20 years. So my knowledge of business, how business operated, what I needed to do was zero. Yeah. So I had no background whatsoever, and I did that for a few years. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And then as time went on, it became a real passion, and I could see the difference it was making to others' lives, and sharing my story and seeing others achieve. It became for me more about what others were achieving. I got a real buzz from that.
Yeah.
And and then it was about 2022, in 2020. I got serious about it, and I thought, if I'm going to do this properly, I need support. I need a team around me, as I had for the cycle and the run. And I guess I took those learnings and that format, what I'd used, into business.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, you succeeded in both those events because you had a great team around you. So that's and I still remember that's when you and I had our first discussion, and I reached out to Trainer HQ, and I just felt that real connection straight up. And I think too, mentally, once I'd made that decision that I wanted to be serious about this, and that was the path I wanted to go down.
Yeah.
Got the support from you guys at Trainer HQ. It went from there, really. Yeah.
It's again, a couple of things. Like I did an apprenticeship when I left school, and that's when I whenever I look at doing something that I've got no skill in or knowledge in, I just go, well, you do an apprenticeship or a trade or something to learn how to do that particular job well. It made sense for me too when I got into business. Go, well, I need to find my version of the apprenticeship to get somebody who's been there, done it, to be able to help me fast track and understand how to do all the stuff rather than trying to just run the hope plan and figure it out. So I definitely resonate. I definitely resonate with that part. And then in just at the end part that you said there as well, you said that you just decided to get serious about it. Again, my experience has been that some people never decide that they're gonna be half in. I'm kind of half doing my business. I'm half not doing it that well, and as a result, they don't really excel. Where it's funny, like if you don't ever decide that you're going to be successful in something, you never will. It sounds like that was the case. You went, right, this is it. I'm going to go for it. Was that how it was for you? Or
I still remember it actually, because at the time I was working ridiculous hours. So I was full-time policing. But the commute was an hour each way from my home. I was juggling full-time shift work with PT. So I was PTing before and after and whenever I could around my roster. And
so you were commuting from where you were to policing an hour. That was
it was an hour each way, plus usually 8 or 10 hour shifts. And then I was doing up to sort of 15 sessions a week, PT around that, and doing 100 hours a week some weeks. And it was literally killing me. And then
I'm hearing it.
And it was because I look back now with the benefit of hindsight and go, I wasn't in that 100% mindset that I wanted to go for the business. I was still unsure and making that decision. Yeah. And then I was driving home one night after 7 nights a night shift, and I just said to myself, that's it. I can't do this anymore. You need to make a decision either way. So I went in the next day to work and I said, I'd like to go part-time. With a view, I thought, I can juggle both. And I went part-time for, I think, 3 months. And then I left. I went full-time with my business. And, mate, I've never looked back. I've never had one day where I thought, that was a bad call. I've thrown myself into it. The lifestyle change has been phenomenal. Yeah. I love everything about it.
So because you went from the running club, but then so people know that transformed into you running your home studio, right? So you started at the running club, but then there was some point you set up your studio at home, right? And then you started actually training people more with strength and conditioning or whatever it may be. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I started with the run club and then we moved down to northern New South Wales. Uh-huh. So I started the run club down there and then I started taking on PT clients, but I was mobile. So we didn't have the studio at that stage.
Gotcha. So mobile first. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went from the run club to run club and mobile. Yeah. And then from there, we purchased a home and converted our garage space into a studio. Gotcha. And then we went next level again there. So, I started off run club. I'd often go to a run club session to be one person.
Yeah.
So it started from there to now, averaging 40 to 50 PT sessions a week at the moment.
I love it. And everyone starts somewhere, right? Very rarely you go, I started my business and I had 50 clients. It doesn't work that way. It's like, so again, the one to then mobile to then into the studio. That you started to, take on clients there. To the reality now, how does the business look like? So, part-time in the policing to then go on full-time, like I'm out of the business. What's the business look like now? Explain to the people watching and listening, how does the business operate? How many clients, sessions, all that stuff that you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so instead of my hour commute in each direction to work.
So 2 hours saved there, yep.
Yeah. So there's time saved there. So my commute to work now is about 15 metres from my bedroom to the studio, to the home studio. And, so typically for me, a morning will start anywhere between 5 and 6 a.m. Usually through till 10 or 11. And then I have a couple of hours to myself during the middle of the day for admin and then I kick off the evenings usually between 3 and 7. But it's another interesting point. After having spent so long in policing, even to this day, I often laugh because I feel guilty because I feel like I don't have a job. And I can have the middle of the day, I live 2 kilometres from the beach, so I'll often grab a coffee at lunch and go for a walk on the beach and do my admin. And it's weird. It's like a guilty feeling, like this is too good.
Not putting up with drunks and like service paradise at 3 a.m. in the morning and
mate, yeah, it's a big difference, and I think then it spreads to all areas of your life. So obviously, I'm a much happier person. I'm a much healthier person. I get to sleep at night. I'm not doing shift work, which then flows onto family. And my biggest concern or my fear for not wanting to do it was mainly centred around income.
Yeah.
And I'm now earning double the income I did policing. So,
wow.
That fear was always there. And if I'd gone down the other path and gone the safety route, I wouldn't be where I am now.
So double the income, probably half the hour, because I don't know about anyone else watching this, but when you were saying you were doing like 70 to 100 hours a week, a lot of people are feeling really lazy right now, I think. So, and again, that's mindset, right? What people are willing or not willing to do in the short term to get what they want, really. A lot of people aren't prepared. I believe a lot of people I speak to, they want to be more successful, but they're not willing to do what it takes to get the success. So, here and again, is it time, is it hours, that mindset and drive to go, and make the decision, this is what I'm going to do, and find a way to make it happen. And your journey alone, what we've heard, we can hear that, again, when you make that decision, you'll find a way to make it happen. And, sure, we all have to go through, maybe doing stuff that's unpleasant or not really what we want in the short term, but those who can persevere and get through will then get the rewards. And now you're down the beach, 15 metres from where you live, and no travel and double the income. So all those, I guess, and a lot happier, and all those things are really important, right? Lifestyle wise, I guess you're in control of your own life.
Yeah, mate. I absolutely love it, and I just encourage people to, get that team around you, get the support network, and look. The other thing too is, I encourage this. You listen to the podcast, read the books, take in on the knowledge, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to take the action. Yeah. We can have the people, your mentors, our coaches, our business coaches are there to support and guide you through this, but at the end of the day, you've got to be the one that takes that action. Yeah,
it's so point. I don't know how many of consultations I do when I'm speaking to potential business owners, and that's the one thing I say. We know to do our part really well. We've got all the experience over 27 years. We've got all the training, skill set to help you. However, what we can't teach is mindset, attitude, drive, taking action. That's all in your basket. So you're so right. You're only as good as the client you're working with, and we know that in the industry, right? So, two people, the same support, same help from the trainer. Yep. One person gets amazing results. One person doesn't really use what they're being, given. So it's such an incredibly important point you make.
Yeah, absolutely.
What in business alone? What was your biggest challenge that you faced? I mean, we did touch on some of them at the start. Was it more just making that decision of like leaving the full-time security of the job? Was there anything else that you go, look, there was a real challenge that I found in my business in terms of, I guess you were new to business, so you had to learn everything. It really stands out that there was a point where you go, one of my biggest challenges in growing my business. Was there anything that stands out?
Yeah. See, again, I was someone that, zero business knowledge, and we laugh now, you and I and my coach, Brad Davis. My first session, we had a conversation where I used to book my clients in my old paperback diary, and that was that was my booking system, was the diary, and that's all I knew. That's all I knew. So I think for me, the challenge was building the foundation. So I'd say that's my best advice to others new to the industry is build the framework first, gain that knowledge, have your systems in place, have the foundations well-rounded, have all that and build from there. And I found that it was exciting for me because I had no knowledge. And again, people can go, oh, fuck, that's all too hard. I don't know where to start. But I loved that experience of, hey, I'm learning something new here. And take on the advice and get the foundations right, and then build from there. Yeah. It's interesting, you know, I see a lot of education providers out there and they even advertise it, you know, as a PT, you can make six figures in no time and you can have the dream life and whatever. And yes, you can, but you've got to be able to prepare to do that work and have those systems in place.
Yeah, not a lot of people are talking about that side, are they? They're just talking about the end. But it's way more important to have all the structure, the systems, all the stuff that's not sexy. I guess that's why it doesn't get talked about, because it's not. It's like, you know, the run around Australia. People see the glory at the end, but they didn't see the 3-4 years of you out there by yourself training and doing all the work. And that's not typically what happens, right? You don't see that bit. You don't see you studying. Listen to the podcast, you just see the results now. Oh, Dave's running a very successful business, but once again, what they didn't see was everything that you had to put into it, all the learning, education, because it's been like over the last 2 years, right? You've been going for it.
Right.
And your business.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's been a huge learning curve for me, and it still is. I mean, I don't think the journey ever ends, to be honest. I think there's always something.
Not in business.
Yeah, you know, business and personally, like we're growing. You know, every day there's something that I pick up and I learn and take on board and yeah.
Well, here's the interesting thing though. 2 years you've been going at it, but I know plenty of people have been in business for a hell of a lot longer, but that still haven't done what you've achieved based on just ignoring all the things you talked about. So, you know, not really making that decision to get help, not making the decision to get around the right people, just cruising and getting by. So again, time to the side. There's a formula for success, right? Rather it's, you know, achieving an athletic endeavor, business, and a relationship. There's always a success formula that's been laid out, and you rather decide to use it or you just hope and pray. But 2 years, it's not a really long time when you think about it to go from part-time business, run club, you know, and then go, right, get serious, leaving the police force that you did for 20 years, to now running a very successful business. It's not a long time, you know. Apprenticeships aren't that short, you know. So it's a credit to yourself and a credit that if you do follow a formula of what's been proven to work and you apply yourself and take action like you did, that you get the results. Yeah,
exactly, mate. Have that faith and trust as well too, I think. You know, that which was huge for me is that I thought, you know, my Trainer HQ journey, I thought, well, if I'm making this investment, I need to give it the respect and my 100% attention and be prepared to take on advice and learnings and implement that stuff, you know. I think it's a big one.
I like the way you said that. I've not heard that before, but that have to respect the investment and the decision that you made. I've never heard that, but I really like that. It is important, right? You can still invest in something and still not utilize it or use it. But I like that, the fact that you actually gave it the word respect, that you did respect this decision and you took it very seriously, as you probably did the run around Australia. So yeah, it's a good way to actually frame it and talk about it in that sense.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, no, I think it's I guess the way I live my life really, it's 100% or it's nothing.
Yeah, I think we get the sense of that. And like while not everyone may follow that exact journey running around Australia, but again, the habits that I've heard on this interview are just so important. The mindset, the habits you have, it's just critical, right? It sounds like a can-do attitude, have faith, trust, because that's the thing, right? A lot of times we don't know, you know, again, you didn't know you're going to make it around Australia. You had to have faith and trust in the process. You trusted in your coach and your team and yourself. And a lot of times people can't handle it if they can't see the crystal ball telling them it's all going to be okay. They don't pursue it because they can't see it happening, you know, rather than having just faith and trust that it's going to take place. But more importantly, no matter what, you're going to be better off than where you were.
Absolutely. And I think it's blocking out a lot of the negativity as well too that you're surrounded with, you know, with whatever I've done. Even when I left policing, you know, I had policing friends that were just calling me saying, mate, are you okay? Like, you're crazy. What are you doing? You know, you've got this safe job, you've got this career, you're 46 years old and you're leaving to do this. Like, you're crazy. And now the same people are coming back to me and asking, hey, how did you do that?
Yep. They don't want to be first. They don't want to be first. Now you're doing it now. It's how did you do it? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you get a lot of that. And I think you've just got to have that, your focus on what your goal is. And that's different for everyone, what goal and that's, I think, a great part of the fitness industry as well too. There's so many different branches off the tree, and that's finding your niche and what makes you tick and what you're passionate about and throw yourself into it.
It's and it's interesting that word safe. You go safe, like you go like if that's your goal, that your life's all about being safe and playing it safe, then that's exactly what you'll get, right? And that's back to the original thing. Because I don't want to look back in the rocking chair going, "Oh, I played it safe."
Yeah.
As you know, my dad was in the police force, and it was when he was retiring. It was a long time ago now, and that was another aha moment for me, because I would have still been reasonably young when he retired. But he said, "You know what? If I had my time again, I would have left the police force a lot earlier to do something different."
Yeah.
And I could see it in his eyes, and I could see him actually, for the better part of his last, at least even 15, 20 years, I could tell it was just now a job, and he was just exchanging time for money. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that love it, right? Like, again, everyone's got a different path in life and love it, and they'll always love it. But I could tell for him even that, it was just exchanging, like looking at the clock going, oh, well, another 10 years to go, another 5 years to go. And I remember him looking at me, but it wasn't just him saying it. I could feel the regret. I could feel the disappointment that he didn't go for it.
Yeah.
But he said, like, he accepted it, and he was honest about it. But he said, yep, if I could have my time again, I would have done something. I would have liked to try something different.
Absolutely, mate. I used to see that so much. And like you said, there was people and that was their passion and they loved the job and everything about it. And that's great.
Yeah.
100% support them. I think it's great. But so many I saw in there too the other way that were just hanging out for retirement. They still had 5 or 10 years to go and they were miserable. They were unhealthy. They were overweight. They were unfit. They were angry at the world. And I had an honest look at myself and looked in the mirror and thought, well, that's the path you're going down. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, so important. And I think what a lot of people lose sight of is that, we're in a first world country. In Australia, you're never going to starve to death unless you really want to. We're not getting shot at or bomb shot or any of that stuff at this point anyway.
Yeah.
If you go for it and it doesn't work out, the worst thing that you'd have been back in the police force or doing some other job.
That's right.
And I think it's an important part for people to realise is that, if you go for it and you don't make it, well, first, second, third, fourth time, that's the other side of it. We'll keep pursuing till you do get there, or just trade off playing it safe and small. And again, I've always say that the truth will set you free. And the truth is a really good thing to be. Like I say to people, if you're going to agonise about kind of going for it, but you're not, and you're making all these excuses, well, just say, I am not prepared to go for it. I'm just playing it safe and get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. Own it.
And own it. Yeah, and that's exactly the case. Or go for it. And the worst case scenario is you're probably just back in the job or doing what you were doing beforehand.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
At least you can be in your rocking chair, like you said, looking back going, what I'm most proud about looking back is that I actually went for it.
Yeah.
I left nothing on the table. Like you said, I went for it. And that's the thing I'm going to be most proud of, regardless if I make this much super or I hung in for this much super or whatever, which is ridiculous thinking in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah.
Exchanging, the lifeblood of a life we've got on this planet to then just for a bit of super or whatever it may be. It's going to be a pretty tough exchange looking back going, well, I wish I would have, but I didn't. So Some great messages, mate, in amongst all this today. And again, just so honoured to have you on today, sharing your story from the achievements we talked about at the start to, coming through. And I hope really people have listened to this and some light bulbs have gone off, or it's been inspiring to go, you know what, like you decided on that day, the next day, I think it was, you said, I'm like going part-time. And then I'm out. I hope that there's someone listening to this going, yeah, I've been delaying or putting off. You're really going for it. And I hope they've taken what they've learned today and heard today to go, it's time to draw the line in the sand and just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, I really encourage and support that. And look, the people that really care for you and love you, they'll get around you, and make it happen.
Agree. Absolutely agree. Well, mates, again, you've been an absolute inspirational another story that, when you set your mind at it and you want to achieve something, you can do it. thanks for your time to come in today and share your story and your success with us. Also, the challenges and everything you've had along the way to show that, we can all do it if we really put ourselves in the right position to win.
No, it's a pleasure, Jace. Great to have a chat.
Mate. All right, take care, and I hope everyone's got some huge value out of this interview today. Thanks, Dave.